that should be enough.
Can go down a little bit more.
Actually, it's my ex-husband, my former husband's.
Tashi today, everyone, and welcome to Food and Tales of Tibet. My name's Philippa Belmore and I'm going to be the MC for today. Before we start, I'd just like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, the Guringai people, and pay respect to elders past and present. And I'd also like to extend that respect to everybody here today. I'd just like to welcome a few people, of course, Mayor Michael Reagan. We have members of the Tibetan community of Australia. We have some new arrivals here today, so a really big welcome to them because we've got people here who've just arrived over the last couple of weeks. I'd also like to welcome members of the local Tibetan community. We have community services providers such as Maria Chidzi, who's here today. We have long-term supporters of the Tibetan community, including Sue Bloom. Sophie Coles and her mother is here as well today. And of course the reason we're all here today, which is the cookbook team of George, Tashi, Pam, Leona and Nolene and their loyal family members. So welcome everybody. Now you can see from looking at the program today that we're going to hear from 4 people about how this beautiful, beautiful book was produced. And we're also going to intersperse this with some lovely music from Jamyang and Tapsang and Tenzin. I was there at the start of this book. I actually went to some of the first meetings and we had some absolutely fabulous times cooking and sharing stories with our Tibetan friends. It's been 3 years, so it's been quite a process in the making, and it's a real community kind of event that we see here where people have come together from very different areas and interests. So to get started, I'd like to invite our Mayor, Michael Reagan, to speak to you and say a few words. Council has been a generous funder of this book, and I know Michael's also been a long-term supporter of the Tibetan community. So thank you, Michael.
Can I say what an absolute privilege it is to be here. It's one of the fun things I get to do in my job as the mayor, and one of the very cool things, and to share it amongst friends like Dorji and our Tibetan mates. It's brilliant. It is indeed an honour and a privilege to be here, and Warringah does have a very proud history of and with our friends with Tibet and working with our Tibetan community here in DY. It is the home, as I'm told regularly, of the largest Tibetan community. So it's no surprise that we're doing a cookbook together, and we gave you a bit of a grant to do that. Now, our library staff are brilliant, and a lot of them are here today, and I thank you so much for being here and for helping the community to translate the early literature. I can never say that word, literature or literacy picture books, and this very successful bilingual English Tibetan story time for preschoolers. It's wonderful what our librarians do for our community. And can I just personally say thank you, you guys rock, and you'll always have a home in Warringah. Now, today is about celebrating our rich ancient cultural heritage and the traditions of Tibet. And so on behalf of my fellow councillors, there was 1 or 2 due here. They were running late, so I think they'll be here a bit later on this afternoon. But once again, and on behalf of the staff of Warringah Council, we're very, very happy that Council can be able to assist you to do this project. But I believe this project all began with the mentor course at our wonderful Brookvale TAFE. Is there anyone from Brookvale TAFE here? Yes. Oh, of course. I get you confused with staff sometimes, so don't worry about that. It's all good. But Brookvale TAFE is another extraordinary institution on the Northern Beaches, and indeed in our community of Warringah. It's fantastic, and we have a great working relationship with them. And when we push forward with our university for the Northern Beaches in the next few years, they will be a key, I hope, to making that a success and making that happen. And Brookvale TAFE has just been very, very forthcoming in their help and assistance with particularly with our multicultural programs, and in particular with our Tibetans. So thank you very much for that, and you can pass that on to our Brookvale TAFE friends. So thank you. Now, the resulting friendships. Yes, round of applause. Now, our resulting friendships, my favourite, shared meals down at DY and George Azuri's home have led to this unique collection of recipes. Now, has everyone got their copy of the book yet? Because it's fantastic. I was having a good read of it, and I've already got my copy signed, so thank you, Tashi, for that. And thank you to George, Tashi and our whole Tibetan community for taking the time to glean an insight into your journeys, your cultures, and more importantly, those delicious recipes.
Thank you so much, Jamyang and Tapsang. That was absolutely beautiful. Before we hear Tenzin and Jamyang, I'd just like to invite Georgie Duddle from the Tibetan Mentoring Program to say a few words about his involvement in the mentoring program, and he'll probably give a little bit more information about Food of Tibet. And Georgie was also involved in initial meetings with the cookbook group. So I'd invite Georgie to say a few words.
Welcome everyone, and thank you very much for coming to this book launch. And I think in Warringah Council, especially the members of the library, I think I think this is our third book launch. If you remember way back, we had another launch in the council chamber about the bilingual book that we translated here. I think if my memory is correct, it's about 33 books that we have translated. And then we had another launch of the bilingual Tibetan children's book, which are like about the animals of the indigenous animals of Australia and Tibet. So we got about 6 series of books that have been translated. Some of them are available here to buy. And so now this is the third book launch on the Tibetan cookbook and tales, And now these mentoring programs have been going for the last about 5 years. And this has been very, very beneficial to the Tibetan community. Especially the concept of this starting the mentoring was started that the Tibetans were asked, is there anything that we can do? And Tibetans were very grateful that they've been a lot of assistance was provided to them, but they said that we don't have any Australian friends, so we would like to have an Australian friend. So through this, that mentoring was started. So now this mentoring, like a cookbook project, was I think actually started at 2009. Around about 2009, and then the mentors and we got together and we had some picnics and things like that, and the mentors started saying that how delicious Tibetan foods are, and is there a restaurant, and whether there's a recipe books and things like that. And there hadn't been any extensive Tibetan recipe books. So the mentors, especially the George, suggested that we should start this Tibetan recipe book. And
thank you. So Pema and Jamyang are going to play some music. Thank you very much.
Hãy subscribe cho kênh Ghiền Mì Gõ để không bỏ lỡ
very much, Tenzin. That was absolutely beautiful. Well, we're getting towards the end of our program, but we've still got a couple of people we're going to hear from. This project was born 3 years ago, and it's a dedicated core team who've gathered it together. And anyone who's ever published a book, and I think there are a few people in this audience who have, knows how much hard work it takes to get it together. Yesterday I showed the book to my new Tibetan mentoring group, and one of the mentors came up to me after the training and said, look, I wasn't going to get the book because I thought it was just a cookbook. And she said, I don't want another cookbook just to put back in the library. And she said, but when I opened it and I saw the stories and I read the recipes, she said, I'm going to buy it, I'm going to buy another one to give to someone as well. And I think I was absolutely blown away when I saw this book. I really was. The photographs by people like Jamie and others, just the attention to detail. And once you read it, you'll be able to actually cook this food. There's been a lot of care taken to make sure the ingredients are described correctly and you can actually cook the book. But really more than that, it's been testament to a journey of friendship of a lot of people in this community, and every page is stitched with care and love, and it truly is a beautiful book. There are many who played a pivotal role in the book, and one of them is Tashi Dorji, also known as Master Chef, and I'd like to invite him now to say a few words about his involvement in the book. And George, are you also going to join up here as well? Thank you. Because George is master facilitator who's hosted many of the events at his home, in his treetop home, and it'd be great to hear from both of you.
Thank you, everyone, and Tashi Dele. And so I'm going to say a few words how we started the cookbook, but be honestly, I'm not really good talk. I'm a bit more happy to stay in the kitchen and play around. Anyways, I will say a few words. The Tibetan Cookbook Project was a brainchild of a Tibet friend and supporters such as George. And when we tried the social visit into his Tibetan friend, and he noticed that the food holds a very central place in Tibet and social culture, and how was the wonderful Tibetan dishes and recipes vary from region to region. So he thought this was a great opportunity to share some of the really special from Tibet culture with the Australians. He asked local Tibetan community members if they would like to interested in share their cookbook culture and traditional tales with others with our Tibetan cookbook. The Tibetan community members thought this was a great idea, so that we are agreed. Our worker groups was the former Tibetans and non-Tibetans who share passionately for the Tibetan food and culture, who wanted to use these brilliant ideas to use the funding for the local Tibetan community in New South Wales. Our group has now been working on this project for 3 years, and over this period we have learned about Tibetan food and cooking styles and region and ingredients and individual skills to share recently of region traditional tales and food preparation and plate displays and photographers and book editors and book design and published, and now finally how to launch our book.
Okay. Food and Tales of Tibet. I believe it to be really a remarkable achievement by a volunteer of a community of friends to help our new friends. I am actually most humble standing here, very humble. In fact, I would rather have left it to the core group and the cooks and all those people involved in the project to be here. I'm most privileged to even say thank you. thank you for sharing this day with us. It's been a long journey. We made it. I feel we are most blessed to have a unique culture, and especially in this part of this world, DY. So a big thank you and big recognition to our cooks. There's Molam and Kalsang. And in fact, I won't name all of them, but I'll just name some of them. There's Lobsang, Nawan, Nima Dolma. Where's Nima? Is he here? Yes? There's Tapsang, Jamyang, Tashi Patso, Tsering Dolma, and many others. Then we have our storytellers, and you'll find their stories funny to read at times. Enjoy it. We should not forget our master photographers with Gary, who's not with us, and Jamie. I remember at one time somebody asked me in a rather unusual conversation, when I'm no longer around, how will people remember me? Some of us may say, well, who cares, I'm gone. But in circumstances where we have a culture who is fearing potential loss of identity, it becomes more apparent that we have a significant issue that may at times be too hard for some of us to do something about. We are a multicultural society. Is that in word or in deed? What I most enjoy, at least during my travels, is when I meet fellow travelers, we share a meal and we tell each other stories. This is the concept that's where the concept from this for the food and tales of Tibet came from.
Thank you so much, George. It was absolutely beautiful. Now we're coming to the end of the formal part of today, but we're going to end it in a traditional Tibetan way, and I'm going to ask Tashi Dorji to come along with Nawang and present katas. And in order to do that, could I ask Michael Reagan to come up front, Pam, Leona, Julia, George, Nolene, Sue Bloom, Roz, and Top Gal. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'm sure you have a few.